Here from Upgrade Gaming, and I'm here to tell you about my first video in a series about pet battling within World of Warcraft. This first video is going to be very basic, and we're going to go over which pets counter which best, and a general quick little guide, I guess, to leveling just from 1 to about 12 or 15, somewhere in that range. I'm going to have many more videos in this series, as I said, so they are going to get progressively more complex as we go along. But this is a good guide for people who are beginners, who don't have any level 25 pets, but I'll also be throwing in a few tips of what I would do if I did have level 25 pets, for those of you who are maybe more audiovisual learners and don't want to take the time to sit there and read all the tooltips and walls of text that you can find on the internet about how to go about doing this leveling pets the most efficient way possible. So I'm hoping that you guys can learn something, if nothing else. And here we go.
Okay, so first I'd like to talk about basic pet countering. One of the easiest ways to ensure a win is to use a pet that counters your opponent. There are 10 pet families, each of which type has its own weakness and strength. So let's go through those now. All pet families take 50% more damage from another family, as well as 33% less damage from another family. Never will these be the same. In other words, if you want to memorize these relationships, you will do so in unique sets of 3. First off are the humanoids. They take 50% more damage from undead pets and 33% less damage from critters. I consider these to be the ugly pets. With the exception of the ones that Blizzard puts in, like Mercablo or Miniterial, these pets are generally pretty ugly looking, so keep that in mind when fighting things in the wild or doing a PvP pet battle and wanting to counter your opponent without being totally sure what they're using. Next are the Dragonkin. They take 50% more damage from humanoids and 33% less damage from flying. Then are the flying pets themselves. They take 50% more damage from magic pets and 33% less damage from beasts. An interesting fact is that not all flying pets actually fly, such as the griffin from the hinterlands or the Everbloom Peachick. After that we have the undead pets. They take more damage from critters and less damage from dragonkin. Critters take more damage from beasts and less damage from elemental pet family. The magic pets take 50% more damage from dragonkin and 33% less damage from aquatic. Elemental pets take more damage from aquatic pets and less damage from mechanical pets. Beasts take 50% more damage from mechanical pets and 33% less damage from humanoids. Aquatic pets take more damage from flying pets and 33% less damage from undead pets. Finally, you have the mechanical pets. They take more damage from elementals and less damage from magic pets. If you want to remember these, one way that seems to be pretty easy to memorize things for some people anyway is to create silly phrases based on the first letters of each of the categories. So, for example, magic, dragonkin, and aquatic is MDA. You might think of the chemical MDMA and keep that stored in your memory that way so that you have some sort of an association between those things. Or humanoids and undeads and critters is HUC, and you might think of Huckleberry Finn. It's important to note that just because a pet belongs to a certain pet family does not necessarily mean that all of or even most of its spells will belong to that family and therefore be hard counters for the family that you're expecting to fight. Like everyone, I am not a fan of exceptions for all the confusion that they bring, but the oddities that do exist this way can be learned on a case-by-case basis as you level up and bond with your pets. Okay. So now that you have this general information, let's talk about picking and leveling pets in the wild. One thing to keep in mind, especially if you have quite a few higher level pets, and this is really simple, that sometimes it can be overlooked, is the pets in higher level zones are, well, higher level. You should be focusing on pets that would be really painful to level from ground zero, whether they're ones that you've bought as level 1 pets on the auction house, or ones that dropped off of a raid boss, or maybe ones that were given to you by a friend and they're all sitting nice and pretty at level 1. If you're brand new to the pet battle world, you might be at an advantage in the sense that you can try out all sorts of pets as you level, and if you capture one down the road that you prefer to one of the pets that you started out with, you can simply switch, since they will be approximately the level of your in-progress pets. And then you've already gotten one of those level 1 pets to a generally higher point than where you would start off from in the event that you want to go back and have that pet at a higher level. So keeping the end game with regards to pet battling in mind, I suggest leveling 3 pets at a time that are all from separate families. It can be really overwhelming when you've maxed your first few pets to level 25 and you come to realize that you can't beat every trainer and daily quest because of all of your pets are falling under 1 to 3 families and you lack a counter. Also, variety will be useful when you're facing opponents in PvP pet battles if you choose to participate in them. I'll talk about some strategy for PvP pet battles in another video. So, you've hit level 5 on your character and you've purchased pet battle training at a major city and you're headed out into the wild to capture some pets. Be sure to turn pet tracking on your mini-map so that you know where these little guys are. The first 3 families that you'll encounter will most likely be beast, critter, and flying pets. As you remember from earlier, beasts are going to be strong against mechanical pets. Critters will be strong against beasts, which is really helpful when fighting in these lower level zones. And flying are strong against magic pets, which will come in handy when you find your first magic pet and start drooling over it and want it for your own. Be an easy capture. Now I realize that few people in general level by questing anymore, especially not once dungeon queuing is an option. During this first stage of getting your pets to level 12 or about 13, which is about halfway point to the max level, I've followed what I think is a well-liked progression for leveling on the Eastern Kingdoms for this guide today. The trail will differ slightly depending on whether or not you are Horde or Alliance, and then again, if you're Horde, if you're Undead or Blood Elf. But most of the zones I've selected are both faction friendly, and if you find yourself unable to make it to one zone or another, you can hover over each zone by hitting your M key and pulling up that map, and you can see what level ranges the pets are within that zone. Again, these tend to follow the natural progression of leveling a character anyway, so it's pretty intuitive. Starting in Dunmorrow, you will encounter predominantly alpine hares, which are critters, and snow cubs, which are beasts. There are 4 rarity levels for capturable pets. The lowest level is poor, which will be written in gray, common, noted in white, uncommon in green, and rare in blue. Although I've done it myself in a pinch for a pet that I really wanted and couldn't find many of, I recommend holding out for at least an uncommon level pet from levels 1 to about 20 because of the sheer number of them that you will encounter. Don't settle for the first one that you battle and fill your pet journal with poor quality pets when you'll definitely be running into uncommon and rare ones. The better the quality of the pet, the better the stats will be, and this aspect scales as your pets scale. When your pets are level 2 or 3, you'll want to move on to Loch Modan, where pets range from levels 3 to 6. At this early of a level, you'll be okay to move into the next zone 1 to 2 levels early, because your 3 pets will be facing only 1 wild pet at a time. For example, you might have gotten 2 alpine hares and a snow cub to level 2 in Dunmoreau, and then you move on to Loch Madon, where the lowest level a wild pet will have is level 3. In Loch Madon there will be many squirrels, littleback rams, and snakes. The rams are generally located on the hills around the border, by the way. Sometimes you have to do weird climbs to get to them if you don't have a flying mount yet. Again, these are critters and beasts, but you can now potentially get rid of a duplicate pet for some spell variety. So if you had 2 alpine hares, you might ditch one to have a hare, a cub, and a ram, or a squirrel. Feel free to browse at your new pet's late level abilities. Even if we aren't yet breaking down the more complex nuances of these spells, you can still compare base damages and choose the pet with better base damage. From Loch Madon, I recommend moving to Redridge, where you'll battle cockroaches, rabbits, chickens, and flying buzzards. As the name suggests, you can now incorporate pets from 3 families upon your capture of a flying buzzard. Hooray! As always, when your pets are at an equal level to the wild ones in the zone, or 1 to 2 levels below, you can move onward and upward. The next zone I recommend would be Hillsbrad Foothills. Duskwood unfortunately has extremely poor pet density, and you'll be spending many minutes riding around in search of your next battle. Also, this is an Alliance-only zone, and I'm trying to make this guide friendly for both factions. For the same reason, I would skip Arathi Highlands. That place is open to both factions, but the pet density is pretty bad. If you're particularly interested, these zones have chickens, skunks, hares, and black rats, in addition to some of the pets you'll have already faced in previous zones. Most of these come up again though, so I wouldn't be too worried if you don't get one right here, right now. From Hillsbrad, it's time to venture to Western Plaguelands, where you'll likely be a lower level than the wild pets, but at this point, you will be fighting your 3 pets versus wild teams of 2, and should have little trouble securing a win, even with the level disadvantage. Unfortunately, nothing really new or cool is prevalent in this zone as far as wild pets go, but on the plus side, you'll be really well versed in what to expect from these wee critters and beasties. After this zone, you can head on over to Eastern Plaguelands to finish the climb to level 12 or probably even 13. While the families are still limited, here you can collect some gnarly pets like the infected squirrel, the festering maggot, and the infected fawn. So, let's get to memorizing those pet family strengths and weaknesses. If you don't want to do that, you can always come back to this video and pause it on the screen detailing those relationships for a quick and handy all-in-one guide to general success. I'm going to let this information set in for now and give you all a few days to wrangle yourself some new level 13 pets, and then I'll be back with another video to help you progress into Pet Battle Superstardom, with slightly more complex information coming your way to upgrade your gaming experience.